we'll do this in 2 days. So I'll do some today, and then this page that is blank on 72 will essentially be filled up by the time we're done. But today I'm just going to focus on the calculations and not so much on concepts. So the first thing I need you to just remember, mortgages are really just loans given towards real estate. And another difference is it's a longer term than just a regular loan. Most loans are no longer than 5 years. Okay, for a car, computer, whatever you want, like it's usually less than 5 or 5 up to 5, I should say. And mortgages are usually longer terms. So 25 years is a very common term or amortization. Maybe I should say that this is the amortization period, so you're not scared of it. So amortization is just how long it will be, you will take to pay it off. And this is the main reason why the banks allow you to take a longer term, is that houses, for the most part, appreciate. Okay. So here's where we're gonna get, we're gonna go back to exponential functions. So the value of the home, right? If you want to know value of the home, you just take current value, you multiply it by 1 plus the rate over 100 to the power of years. And if you think about it, 1 plus something will be resulting in 1.0 whatever. It will be bigger than 1. So this is an increase in exponential function. Okay, so if you want to know the value in the future, I should put that in there. If you want to know what the value of the home is going to be in the future, we just use this formula to figure that out. And I will use that later on. And here's something, this is a trickier one here. Equity. Equity is the value of the home minus the balance owing. That is what equity is. The value of the home, by the way, the value of the home hopefully is going to go up. And what's going to happen to the balance owing hopefully over time? It goes down. So those two phenomena, right? Both of those things happening simultaneously makes you have more and more equity in the home. Okay, so I will use that later on. This is the ugly formula here. Equity is essentially current value times 1 plus rate over 100 to the power of years minus, this is when I'm going to use the TBM solver function, balance of, how about we do the years times PY? I think that's safer to go with. This one is worth boxing in. So if somebody asks you, hey, what do you think you're going to have in equity in the home 5 years from now? We can actually calculate that and estimate it in the future, into the future. Okay, so I would say very important here. So this chunk right here determines the value of your home at after a certain number of years, and this gives you how much you will be owing on the house after a certain number of years. And the difference is what we call equity. That's one of the biggest reasons why people buy homes is they build equity. Okay? And I'll talk about that tomorrow a bit more. So let's do some calculating here on the back side. It's basically loans on steroids, right? That's what mortgages are. They're just much bigger values. Go to 73 here. All right, got our example here. Grab a highlighter. Jose is negotiating with his bank for a mortgage on a house. He's been told that he needs to make a 10% down payment on the purchase price of the home, which is $225. Nice, right? Those houses, this should be updated. The average house is in Winnipeg is probably around the 300 to 350,000 mark. Then the bank will offer 3.75 compounded semi-annually with a term of 20 years. And keep in mind, it doesn't give us the monthly payments, but it indicates that monthly payments are happening. So now we can ask you a bunch of questions, but the first one is, how much will each monthly payment be? So let's figure that out. A is right here, NI, PV, PMT, future value, and so forth. Compounding periods per year. What is semi-annually? What number does that go with? Always think it's semi-annually twice a year. Okay, I hope that's what you were thinking. So 2, and then payments would be 12 because it does indicate that they're monthly payments. Future value, you want it to be 0. Payment is what I'm going to calculate, so put a dot there. Present value, that's where you have to watch out. There's a down payment. So we're going to figure out our down payment. And that will be based on the purchase price of the home. So it's 225,000 times 0.0375. No, sorry. I was looking at the interest rate. It's 10%, correct? So my bad. 10%. So it's 0.10 basically. So we'll just calculate that. And if you grab your calculator, what is that? 22,500? This is important. So the minimum down payment is 5%, by the way, in Canada right now. You can't argue that 5% down is the minimum you need. So to buy a house. So that's where I'm gonna show this step in my present value here. I'm gonna go like this. 225,000 is actually the value of the home, but we're gonna subtract our down payment. And I actually do that on the TVM solver later on, so I'll just leave it like that for now. This is 3.75, and is 20 years times PY, which is 12. And let's go ahead and enter this. So I actually go 12 times 20, right? That's 240, 3.75, and I go 225 minus 22,500, and there it is, 202,500. So this is the number you want to focus on, right? And so this is 240, that's the number you want to enter there. And my payment, I don't know yet. I'm going to calculate that. This is 12 and 2. So that's what I have. Go to the payment, alpha, enter, and it's a monthly payment of 1197.55. I will put the negative in front there, because this payment is leaving you. It's going to the bank to pay off your balance owing. Okay. So there you figured out your payment. Maybe it's worth highlighting the down payment that happened here. When you look at your notes, you can see, okay, the down payment has been subtracted from the price of the house. So this is my loan, right? This is the present value. And here we go, B. I'm going to try to solve for B right in here, because there are so many questions, right? How much will Jose have paid off after 12 years? How much will he have paid off after 12 years? I think that I probably should have asked for balance owing first. Okay, so I will do this. Look at what C is saying. What is the balance owing after 12 years? Let's do that first. We're going to go C. So we're going to go balance owing after 12 years. So I have to go 12 times. What is PY in this case? It's 12, correct? So it's basically balance after 144 months. So let's go ahead and figure that out. I'm going to go apps, finance, balance is the last option there, 144. And so after 12 years, you still owe 99,299. So how much has been paid off? I'm going to use this to answer B, okay? You're going to go 202,500 minus what you still owe. I'm going to actually make an arrow from here going up. So you're like, where did we get that number from? Because we kind of did C before B. So here you do that. And the answer is 103,200.21. That's how much has been paid off after 12 years. This is how much is still owing after 12 years. Does that make sense what I did there? Right? I figured out, hey, how much do I still owe after 12 years? Okay, I owe this much. Well, if I started with that and I still owe 99,000, subtract those two and then you get how much you've actually paid off on your mortgage. Okay? What I need you to understand is that it's not just, you couldn't just look at my calculator, 1197.55. If I just went times 144, because you made 144 payments of this after 12 years, you paid off way more than just the 103 if you think about it. And why is that? It's because of the interest, right? The bank has been, every time you make one payment, they take off interest every single month. So not all of this goes towards paying off what you owe, only part of it, okay? But every month it's more and more. Okay? Every month it's just a little bit more. So you need to understand that. Okay? D, let's do D over here. How much interest will Jose end up paying by the time the loan is paid off? You can choose sum of interest, right? You go from the first payment to whatever n is up on your TDM, 240. Or you can go 20 years times PY, that's still 240, right? And so we can use that. I'm pretty sure I used some interest before, so I'm just going to go copy paste. Okay? And then you have 84,911 and 64 cents. Or would be n times payment, right? So 240 times 1197.55 minus the present value, which is 202,500. 240 times 1197.55. There you go. 287,412 minus 202,500. When you subtract those two, it's a little bit more doing it this way because we've rounded. So either this 84,912 or 84,911.64. Okay, either one of those works. This is the cost of borrowing, folks. This is the interest. This money is the bank's profit. So look at it this way. When you paid them back over 20 years, you will have paid 287,400. You only borrowed 202, but you pay them back this much. So when you subtract those two numbers, this is the total interest paid. This is also known as the finance charge, also known as the cost of borrowing. So oftentimes people don't think of it because I just want my house, I don't care. But in 20 years, there's 85 grand that is not yours, right? You gave it to them as their profit. And now imagine they have thousands of mortgages and they're making lots of money of every single mortgage. They're making lots of money. So that's why the bank is doing so good. So that's D. Next, how much will he pay altogether? Okay, so these questions are just to get you to see everything. So it's basically just N times payment. Okay, that's what you've paid altogether. So it's just 240 times 1197.55. And we already know that number. That's 287,412. Okay. This is basically the loan plus the interest. That's what this is. So if you have knowledge, you have power. Right? If you understand how interest works, when you're sitting there with your financial officer at the bank, and they understand, okay, you know your stuff, they have more respect for you. They like it's not like they're trying to trick you on purpose, but they're like, oh, okay, you know what you're doing, right? Like I'm sitting there with my TVM solver and just double checking, right? Or I go home. Right? I go home. It's like I do calculations such as, what if my interest rate is a little less? What if another bank gives me 350 instead of 375? It's less interest. How much will I save, right? So you go back and you crunch the numbers. Sometimes it's thousands of dollars, right, that you're saving. So it's a big decision. F. Let's go to F here. There. How much sooner in months would Jose pay off the mortgage if he adds $150 to his monthly payment? Okay, so this is where you need to recalculate. So make sure you write this down. Everything else stays the same, right? So 2, 12, future value still 0. But now my payment is going to be different. Uh, this is what I do. I go negative because it's going to be negative by the time I enter this into my PMT section. So I'm going to go 1197.55, and I'm going to add $150 a month to that payment. I'm going to increase it by $150. My present value, guess what? It's still 202,500. Copy paste. The interest rate is still the same. Copy paste. But now N is going to be calculated. And I hope you all understand that it should be less than 240, correct? Should be less than 240. Okay. Let's see how much sooner. What do you think? I don't know, like try to think in your head, like if I do 150 more a month, how much sooner do you think you'll pay it off? I don't know. Just guess maybe. I don't know, 12 months sooner? I'm curious to see what you would say. Okay, so this is to be calculated. So I go to my payment and watch what I do. You got to be very careful to put the brackets there because all of it should be negative by the time you're done. Okay, so that's my payment now. I leave everything else the same. I go to N, I go alpha, enter. And this is now 202,6161. Let's do 4 decimals, that should suffice. So think about it this way. You go 240 minus 202,6161, and that is, I said 150, right? Yeah, 150. 37.38 months sooner. What would that be in years approximately? 3 years. You're shaving off 3 years off of your mortgage. So imagine 3 years without a mortgage payment. Like that's all your money. You can just keep that. Like once you're done your mortgage, now you get to keep that for 3 years in your pocket. You just keep telling yourself, hey, I've got that extra money. And so putting in an extra 150 a month results in 3 years being done sooner in 3 years. Okay. What is G saying? How much would he save in interest with his new payment plan? Ooh, I like this question. I'm going to do this. Interest here would be 202,6161 times my payment, which is, I need to go check because this is 134755. That is my payment now. So I'm going to multiply N, which is the number of payments, by this 1347.55, and then I'm going to subtract 202,500 from it. Sorry about the mess there. And so that's 273,035.33 minus 202,500. Let me zoom into that corner there. There you go. And when you subtract it, you only paid 70,535.33 in interest here. How much did we pay earlier? Savings would be 84,912.00 minus 70,535.33. So you saved 14,376.67 cents. How about that? You save 15 grand. It doesn't matter what time of, like if we're talking 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, 14,000 is still a lot of money, right? So that's how much you save just by paying it off faster. And this is the type of math I would like you to be able to do in real life as well. Okay, do some back and forth. All right. I know this was a lot. You need some time to kind of wrap your head around this. Um, I would like you though to try. This goes to 76, so 74, 76. And there will be some questions that ask you about equity. If you're not comfortable figuring out the equity just yet, just leave it. I'm coming back tomorrow to talk about that a bit more. But you should be able to at least get started, like figuring out the monthly payment, figuring out how long it would take with the payment, right? Like those things I would expect you to do. Uh, and just watch out for the down payment, right? You got to take that away before you put it into your present value. Thank you, guys.